you're like me, you probably have a huge stash of washi tapes because let's be honest, they're just too pretty to resist. But when it comes to using them, it can be tricky to come up with creative ideas. So I challenged myself to use my new washi tapes to create some cards and tags, and I love them. In this video, I'll show you how to make 13 unique eye-catching designs using various styles of washi tape. So you can finally put that stash to good use and you won't believe how easy and fun it is. Let's dive in. I used to use washi tapes primarily in my bullet journals, and I had multiple journals for different topics, so a lot of opportunity to use washi in the past. But now I'm excited to use them in my card making. If you'd like to see my journaling process, let me know in the comments and I'll create a video showing you exactly how and why I do it. And what you're looking at right now is a swatch of my washi tapes, and mind you, I have a ton more that I haven't swatched yet. Today, I'm thrilled to play with these gorgeous washi tapes gifted to me by the Washi Tape Shop. And if you'd like to get your hands on some, I have an exclusive discount code for you so you can get 10% off your purchase. Please check the video description for the link and the code. And by the way, I always keep the labels for reference. That way, if I want to reorder a specific design, like this hillside view, for instance, I know exactly what it's called. Some are standard washi tape and others are these fantastic washi stickers, which are going to be super helpful when I'm making my cards. Some of these rolls come like stickers with a release paper in the back, and some come as regular sticky tape, yet others come as pre-cut washi stickers. This one is called Rose Nocturne and it's just stunning. I'm especially loving the intricate gold highlights on the white background. And these stickers, they peel off so easily and have a super fine white border, which makes them perfect for clean designs. I'll apply these stickers to a sheet of lightweight hammermill cardstock so I can fussy cut them to resemble die cuts. See how seamless they look on this white cardstock? You can barely see the outline. Plus, regular die cuts also have a bit of a white border anyway, so these aren't any different if you were to use them as die cuts. Washi tape is fantastic for creating quick and beautiful cards, and it's so easy to work with. And it's also very easy to overlap these stickers because they're really thin material and you don't see the bulk where the overlap happens. If you'd like to see the complete roundup of all the cards I made today, please keep watching until the end. Since I made a lot of cards and gift tags with these rolls, I would take hours to walk you through all of the card making. So I'll show you the process for a few in this video and create a second part for the rest. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Now let's get into the card making. The first card I'm creating is a 5x7" card. I've fussy cut a bunch of the peonies from the pre-cut stickers and they're mostly good. But I might refine the edges just a little bit if I see they're a little bit uneven. I have a thin gold foil strip to use on the card front. Here, I've also pulled out a couple of sentiment options from my stash. I'm leaning towards the scripty congratulations, but we'll see. Next, I've cut out 2 card panels, one white and one green with the Spellbinders 5x7 matting die, and embossed the white panel to create a bit of texture in the background. I'll have all the supplies and card dimensions listed on my blog, and you'll find the link in the description if you're interested. First, I'm going to trim both the card panels at an angle. I'll stack and cut them at once so the angle is exactly the same on both. And I'll get a 2-for-1 card front from this technique as well. I debated on flipping the embossed panel over since the reverse debossed side was also really pretty, but the angle at which I'd cut the panels wouldn't allow me to do so. Now, there's nothing wrong with the embossed side, but I somehow preferred the debossed side a tad more, but didn't think of it until it was too late. I'll use the green panel at the bottom, and to disguise the seam, I'll add a thin strip of gold foil across it later on. I'm using a generous amount of liquid glue behind the embossed panel because it's bumpy and I need it to adhere securely to the card base. Next, I'll stick down the green panel. The cardstock is thick enough that liquid glue won't warp it, and it also gives me a bit of time to wiggle the pieces into place. I'll add the gold strip next and use my craft knife to remove the excess hanging over the side. I'll work on the floral arrangement and decide on where to place the sentiment. These red peonies will create a striking contrast against the green. I'll use a narrow piece of foam strip to adhere the sentiment first before I adhere the flowers. That way I won't run out of room for the sentiment later on. I'll play around with the flowers a little until I find the perfect arrangement I'm looking for. I usually trim or cut down anything to fit the arrangement perfectly. For this tiny cluster, I decided to have the flowers peeking out a little from behind the peonies. Now I'll use a press and seal so I don't disturb the arrangement. This will keep everything in place while I apply glue, and I won't have to recreate the arrangement on the card front. I'll use liquid glue to secure the overlapping pieces to ensure they won't come loose. And since I'll add some foam squares to add dimension to the die cuts, I'll also add them where the die cuts overlap to secure them further. I'm using these large, low dimension foam squares from Salmon Says Stamp for no particular reason except that I have accumulated a ton of foam squares and need to use them up. Now I'll carefully place the press and seal with the floral arrangement on the card front, ensure it's aligned perfectly, and then press it down firmly. Once the die cuts have adhered, I'll carefully remove the press and seal so I don't accidentally rip anything up. And by the way, I usually use the same piece of press and seal several times before discarding them. It looks fantastic, and now it's time for embellishments. I'm using some gold pearls that I found at my local dollar store for just $1.50 each. I'll use a mix of the large and small pearls for this. I prefer to use odd numbers of embellishments as it creates visual interest. Now the card is complete and I love how it turned out. So simple, yet so stunning. I created 3 cards using these washi stickers. Keep watching and I'll show you what the other cards look like. The next 2 cards are so unconventional but absolutely amazing. Let's continue. For the next couple of cards, I've already done some basic die cutting to speed things up. I've already adhered a few panels of this gorgeous washi tape to lightweight cardstock and cut up the individual panels. I haven't cut out all the designs, and there are a few more before the pattern repeats. These are so beautiful. Some are still on the release paper, but look at this print. These are perfect for save the date cards or artsy engagement cards. These are painterly and most of them are couple themed. We have an Alice in Wonderland theme in this one, a boat lifting off with balloons with a couple in it, a garden path, and many more. All perfect for engagement or save the date announcements, I think. I've never used this kind of washi tape before, so this was really challenging myself, and so I did. I don't have any save the date sentiments, so I printed these sentiments on my inkjet printer and cut them with tag dies. I created sentiments like save the date and hold the date for us, just for a little variation. If you have a Cricut, you can use that as well. I do have a Cricut Joy, but I don't use it too much, and God knows what happened, but it wasn't recognizing the mat, so I used my regular printer. I've also used the Matting Basics die set to cut out the base layers. I'm using this white Nina Crest cardstock and a Spellbinders brushed black cardstock as the base layers. I wanted a gold mat, so I cut out frames with Spellbinders brushed gold cardstock using 2 nesting dies, and I'm saving the centers for another project. This way I'm being frugal with my supplies as always. Now I'll start die cutting the washi tape panels. I want to show you what I did, so I've only cut out enough supplies for 2 cards. I'll save the remaining washi panels for later. Look at the beautiful shadow of this boat. So much detail. I want to keep that when I cut it out. Let me quickly show you the other designs. We have a bonfire scene, winter scene, spring scene, and more. There are quite a few tiles, all perfect for engagement or save the date cards like I was saying. You can use them for winter, fall, or summer weddings. I'll die cut this panel, making sure the boat's shadow is visible. I'll cut the rest of the panels and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm done with all the die cutting and look at how gorgeous these are. The fall one was extra long if you remember, but I cut these all down to the same size with the same die. Since I only have 2 sentiments, I'll just pick a couple of these panels and get to putting them together. The assembly is stupid simple, if I can say so, and the results are gorgeous. This is why I really love washi tape and I should really start using them more on my cards. Save the date cards will go through the mail, so I'll keep these very low profile so it doesn't cost extra and doesn't get damaged under pressure either. I also wanted to show you the beautiful matting line around the edges. I just recently purchased the Spellbinders matting and layering die sets and they're absolute game changers. Adds so much sophistication to cards. Alright, let's continue with the assembly. These are easy to batch create as well in assembly line fashion. You could easily create the entire roll in a matter of a couple of hours, tops. For the black card base, you'll need to add a lightweight white cardstock to be able to write a message, but you probably guessed that already. I'll skip that step for now to speed this up. I'll adhere the sentiment next. I have a couple of options for the twine, gold twine or gold thread. I think the thread looks elegant and is also less bulky. I'll make a simple double knot, and because the thread started to fray, I took a drop of glue and tried to get all the strands together, but it didn't really end up being the best option. I don't have an idea what to do with it. I'll use glue dots to adhere the tags to the card front and it's all done. I'll be using the next washi tape to create both a masculine and feminine card, and I think they turned out gorgeous. Now let me show you the washi tape first. I've selected a few tiles from the washi tape and cut out 2 sets of tiles with 3 in a row since I can only fit 3 tiles down the length of a 5x7 card. I skipped the middle tiles as you can see and reserved them for another project. I cut out these 3, skipped a few, and then used the next 3. The moral of the story is just pick the tiles you like. I'm making a feminine card first and decided to mix some blue with the pink. Please stick around until the end of the video to see the masculine card I made with this washi, and don't forget to use the discount code if you plan on buying some washi tape today. I adhered the selected portions to some lightweight hammermill cardstock again and used a square die to cut it out. This tile picked up a bit of the second print, but that's all right. For this section, I used the pierce die that is 3rd from the smallest size. I'll see if I can use the extra piece in another project. I removed that tile because I want to place the sentiment there. I'm again using the Spellbinders A7 matting die set to cut out my layers for my 5x7 card. I've also used the Pinkfresh Studio Essential Stitch Scallop die to cut out 3 white frames that I'll use to hold the sentiment. I picked a slightly off-white cardstock to match the yellowish tones in this washi tape, so I'll use that as the top layer of the frame. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera though. I'll heat emboss the sentiment on vellum and place it behind these frames. I cut 3 frames because I wanted to stack them instead of using foam strips because these frames are too narrow. Let's get started on putting the card together. I'm using the Wishing You the Biggest Slice of Happiness sentiment from the Concord 9th Cut the Cake stamp set. First, I'll complete heat embossing the sentiment on the vellum. I'll use the off-white frame on top, and since I don't have the exact square die to cut out the vellum, I'll adhere the frame to the vellum and then trim the vellum down with a pair of scissors. I prefer to use my MISTI with a sticky mat when I'm stamping on smaller pieces since the magnets get in the way. I'll use the grit on the sticky mat to ensure the frame is straight, and that will ensure the stamp is straight as well. Since I'm using this stamp for the first time, I'll just condition it with my fingers to remove any sticky residue. I'll apply anti-static powder and use my embossing ink to stamp the sentiment. I'll curve the sticky mat back on itself to release the frame because peeling it off the mat may curl it. I'm using Ranger Ultrafine Gold Embossing Powder and being careful about keeping the powder away from the edges since the powder might accumulate around the edges and melt with the heat. I'll have to flip the frame over really fast to prevent the powder from sticking. I could have heat embossed on a larger piece of vellum and added the frame after the heat embossing, but why waste my supplies when this requires only a tiny bit of extra effort, right? I think I did a good job. I find heating the embossing powder from behind gives a much smoother texture than heating from the top. Also, the ultrafine quality of the embossing powder helps, of course. Look how smooth this is. Now, let's stack the frame layers. I have to be careful not to get glue onto the vellum. The vellum is nice and secure now since it's sandwiched between the frames. I'll put an acrylic block over it and let the glue dry while I continue with the base layer, which will go on foam tape. When I remove the release paper halfway, I'm creating a little bit of a spring effect, which helps to keep the card panel off the card base, allowing me some time to position it properly before I press it down. Now I'll add the panel with the washi tape with some liquid glue, making sure I center it properly. I was debating on whether to center the sentiment, but realized that the bit of washi tape from behind the vellum would make the sentiment a little harder to read, so I stayed with the original plan of leaving it on the side. I used some liquid glue again to attach it to the card front. For embellishments, I have some honeybee gems in dark blue. I think they're perfect. I also had these butterflies in my stash and just thought they might add a beautiful touch. I love these washi butterflies from Pinkfresh Studio because they brighten up any card project. I'll add some bit of foam tape under the wings to give them a little bit of lift. In hindsight, I think I should have placed the pink butterfly on the pink tile instead of on the frame, but it was stuck down with liquid glue and I could move it. It still looks beautiful though, and the card is done. Keep watching to see how I made 10 more cards and gift tags. I'm back with a bunch of different cards and matching envelopes I made using the washi tapes. Do you remember this first one I made with the pre-cut Peony Reverie washi stickers? I made this one on camera, but this is how I made the envelope. I placed a few of the stickers on the envelope for a coordinated look. This is another card that I made, and I decorated the envelope the same way with the washi tape stickers. For the card, I created a vellum overlay with a heat embossed sentiment and the note card inside, which I matted using a dark sage kind of green. And the last card from the Peony Reverie set is again a matching envelope and card front using the stickers, and I added some embellishments and a hot foil sentiment from my stash. Very simple, but I love how pretty it is. And this is the beautiful Rose Nocturne washi tape. And I made 2 cards with matching envelopes using this design. The first one is a 5x7 card. I stuck 2 strips of washi tape side by side on white hammermill cardstock and cut out the panel using the Spellbinders matting die. Then to disguise the seam, I used a strip of gold foil cardstock and added a simple hello sentiment with a vellum shadow layer. Then I added some card bling and it's done. Super simple, quite flat except for the little dimension on the sentiment, and that was it. I had a little bit left over from the washi tape panel. I made an even simpler A2 card with it. Probably the simplest card I've ever made. There's no card panel or anything, and I just cut out a hello from the washi tape scrap and adhered it directly on the card base. And I also added this washi tape butterfly from Pinkfresh Studios, something you've seen me do, and then I added these beautiful pastel gems from Salmon Says Stamp. This next one is the Pretty Morning Blush Washi. I decorated the envelope with a leftover strip that I created from adhering a piece of washi tape onto white hammer mill cardstock. Then I cut out these strips using a basic strips die, and I also cut out thin strips of Altenew brushed rose gold foil cardstock. I just added these strips in an alternating pattern, as you can see, and created a floral arrangement using an old Spellbinders die set. I stamped the sentiment directly onto the card base and used some pops of color for these flower centers and embellishments off on the side. I created just one card with this one because I'd already made too many and the video would become really long. This is the Mediterranean tile set, and you've seen me make this one on camera already. I made the envelope by sealing the envelope flap with one of the tiles, and then took a craft knife and very gently cut through the washi tape to release the envelope flap. And I made a second card that has the same envelope design. You just have to be careful about not using too much pressure when you cut through the washi, because you don't want to cut through the envelope, of course. For this masculine card, I cut these 3 tiles separately, but I had a bit of a mishap here because I adhered the bottom tile first, and while this was in its proper place, the others didn't align properly. So I have a little bit of overhang here, and cutting it would look strange, so I'll just leave it like that for this one. If you decide to recreate this design, make sure you place the center one first and then the other 2 tiles. That should help. Anyway, so I matted a little yellow circle with the sentiment heat embossed onto a larger circle using craft cardstock, and then I added a twine bow with a glue dot. You've already watched me creating these save the date cards with the Cupid's Muse washi tape. I have some leftover panels that I can use for more cards, and I just realized I forgot to create envelopes for these. I used this really beautiful Dreamy Merlot washi to create these 2 gift tags. I stuck the washi tape on vellum and cut out the tags. I added a to and from heat embossing to the second layer of tags that I created from lightweight cardstock, and then tied them together with some gold twine. I made the second tag a little bit more sturdy because the first one felt a little too flimsy, so I stuck 2 tags together and heat embossed the back, which also gives you more room to write a message if you like. I have to show you one thing here. Do you see the gold flecks? Now, this original washi tape doesn't have any gold accents, so I used my Wow embossing pen and added little accents and then heat embossed it. You see the shine here as well, so that adds a little bit of interest to the washi tape. For the final card, I used the Dreamy Merlot again and cut out this aperture, and I took a hexagon die and cut out these tiles. I cut the tiles in half and placed them around the periphery of the card and also around the window. I added a little maroon frame around the window and heat emboss the sentiment directly onto the inside of the card, and that's it. That's all the cards I made with all these gorgeous washi tapes, and there is so much more washi tape left over, but the only one I didn't end up using is this Hillside View washi tape, which is also really pretty. I'm reserving this for my next washi tape cards video, which will be coming soon. So these are the 6 washi tapes that I used today to make all of these cards. I recently made a video to show you my insane collection of pattern papers and how I finally got up the courage to make 5 cards and another bonus idea with a few of the busiest patterns. Make sure you check out that video here.